Alright, today we're going to be looking at some funny 1-star NA5 reviews. Now, it was actually kind of hard to find reviews for this video because, like, 95 of the bad reviews aren't actual criticism or anything really funny. It's just people complaining about skins or camping, so I did my best. I've played for almost a year and a half. I quoted a few months ago from these things. Number 1, money hungry. Every S tier is hard to get and you have to spend money. Number 2, toxic. I can't say anything else. You either are good and get yelled at for hacking, or you're bad and get yelled at for making a mistake and told to die. Number 3, crashes and lags. This game has horrible ping. I was in high tier but lagged so badly I ended up giving up along with my 2 other duos. Alright, so this is something I never really understood, is why people get so mad about S tier skins costing money. Like, obviously, the game has to monetize somehow, and there's a few ways they can do that. They could charge you up front to buy the game. They could do in-app purchases, such as Identity5 does, or they could shove a bunch of ads in your face. Personally, I prefer in-app purchases, especially when those purchases don't affect gameplay at all. It's just visual effects. Like, I get that you want skins, but this is probably, like, the best way for the developers to monetize the game, and it really gets under my skin when people get angry about things costing so much. In regards to the toxicity, this is actually really true, but only on the NAEU server, as well as the crashes and the ping issues. That's kind of something that's exclusive to this server. For whatever reason, people over here are just way more toxic, but I do agree that is a big point of, just being turned off of the game, is the immense toxicity that you do face. Although there are options to, like, auto leave the post-match now, and you can kind of not see it quite a bit these days. And folding out a bit more on the ping issues, yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of feel like NetEase, the developers, have just really thrown in the towel on the NAU because it's just not very pleasant to be over here because of all the toxicity. That's just absolutely everywhere. Like, honestly, I don't think this community deserves better servers, if I'm honest. It would be nice because, it is servers that are the majority of the problem, but really, can we really expect them? I think hunters camping should be banned. If hunters didn't camp, like, it might seem like they can still win in low tiers, just because no one's really that good. Hunters have confusing abilities, and it might be a little bit difficult at first, but once you get to, like, about elk or something, or what is that in hunter tiers, I think crocodile, you'll find that you have to camp, or unless you're playing specific hunters like wheel kind of cannot camp. Like, there are hunters that can, like, proxy and leave the chair and whatnot, but you have to camp and tunnel to a certain degree, or else you just won't win in higher tiers. Even mid tiers, you just won't win. Yeah, it just is this game's meta, and people try to change the meta for whatever reason.
Dude, the hunters are so OP, constantly being able to teleport everywhere and not affected by the attacks of the survivors do. Either nerf hunters or buff survivors.
Wow, somebody really had a bad match against a Wu Chang. Good grief. I mean, what kind of hunter is teleporting all over the place? Like, that's usually just pretty troll, honestly. Because you teleport off chair, well, guess who's getting a free rescue? Unless you're like Wu Chang, good luck getting back to the chair. Or breaking wheel, I guess, but still, it's kind of the same thing. It's like teleporting everywhere like that, or like this person I think is implying, is really just not good. And in regards to nerfing hunters and buffing survivors, like, can we actually do that the other way around, please? Like, I'm a survivor main. I don't think a lot of survivors need to be nerfed, but I definitely think a lot of hunters need to be buffed. Like, a lot of the older hunters just kind of really forgotten about, and maybe that's just NAEU meta kind of being the NAEU meta and really behind what the actual picks are, but honestly, it's just kind of Bloody Queen that's really good right now, kind of Dream Witch, kind of Sculptor, and then there's some Thai hunters around, but that's kind of really all we have for good hunters right now. I wish there was a little bit more you could pick without having to be really good with the character to win. Unless you like playing Hunter, don't play this game. Hunters are way more OP than survivors. Maps are more designed to help them, and they have way more advantages. Dude, what fucking maps are you playing on? Like, Honestly, in general, I think maps, for the most parts of maps are honestly geared towards survivors. I mean, there are dangerous ciphers and stuff, but I mean, maybe this guy just always decides to go decode that one cipher that's in the open with no pallets or windows or anything near it. But honestly, you have shit like the hospital, the factory. There's pretty much always a building in a map. I think there is always a building in the map that is just really strong for survivors. There's always strong and weak points. And I mean, maps can generally be one way or the other, but I think, you know, there are maps like Moonlit that are generally hunter-sided, depending whether the team has a priestess or not. Or there's maps like Arms Factory, which I would say is generally survivor-sided. So, I don't know, I feel like generally maps are kind of, you know, about equal with their siding. And I mean, there is a difference. You could also be playing a bad survivor / hunter on a bad map for them. Like, I don't know, playing something like Soul Weaver on Arms Factory is generally not that great. Whether if you were playing like, or Soul Weaver on Moonlit is probably a better example. Like, Soul Weaver on Moonlit's awful. But if you were to play someone like Clown is really good on Moonlit. And, like, that's a good example. Priestess on Moonlit, really, really, really good. Put Priestess on something like Arms Factory, still pretty good. Priestess is kind of annoyingly in that way, but not nearly as good. Like, you know what I mean? Absolutely trash game environments, toxic players, negative plays are everywhere, plus in AFKs are common as fuck, no matter how many times and how hard you try to report. The developers don't care at all. They only care about selling outfits in the game. They do not play this game if you don't want to waste your time on stupid things. I mean, this comment, as much as I kind of made fun of it with that ridiculous voice, is honestly pretty correct about everything. I mean, the game environment isn't very great. There are a lot of toxic players. Negative plays are in fact everywhere. And this is something that I've wanted to make as a video, but couldn't really find a better way to do it, so I might as well explain it here. Is there's really a weird double standard when it comes to negative plays by hunters and negative plays by survivors. Like when a hunter hits a chair, for example, needlessly, that's considered super toxic. Even though it's really mostly putting the hunter in a disadvantaged position. But when survivors like just chill and emote at the exit gate, wasting everybody's time, like that's generally not considered as toxic. Or like emoting in front of the chair is also considered toxic, but emoting while kiting is fine. Like there's a really odd double standard there, but it's kind of a weird phenomenon. I mean, AFKs aren't common anymore. They're kind of a little bit of a rare thing. AFKs used to be super common, but even now, the AFK detection system sucks, and what happens when an AFK is detected sucks even worse. It's a disaster whenever an AFK happens. You might as well just write the match off. I think I have a YouTube video about it. And it is true, no matter how many times you try to report, the developers usually don't care. And the way the reporting system works, to my knowledge, is basically if a player gets a certain amount of reports, then they look into it. If one person reports this person, then they don't care. And this is really annoying when it comes to stuff like hackers and whatnot. Hackers in quotation marks. Because this game has no anti-cheat, and I've said this before, you can go Sonic speed and the game will not actually detect you. It requires players to do that, and that kind of thing is so simple to implement but isn't, and I don't understand why. And then that the game developers only care about selling outfits, I've already talked about, and yeah, so that sums up this comment.
This game is a complete and utter knockoff of Dead by Daylight, a very fun, spooky PlayStation game that just had its 4th year anniversary. This game took Dead by Daylight's exact format and overall game idea and made it much worse. DBD has actual mobile game and is much better than this piece of crap.
Alright, editing me. Roll the clip. Roll.
We want to tell you that before Identity V was released, we gave our consent to NetEase to use some of the gameplay mechanics that you might recognize from our game in theirs.
We've both helped as gameplay consultants in trying to offer the best experience for the players.
comments like this really annoy me, and we've already talked about how I mean, maybe I wasn't super clear on it, but I don't think Identity V is a direct copy of Dead by Daylight. They do obviously share the exact same concept, to be fair, but this is... the way you play Identity V is very different to the way you play Dead by Daylight, and these people that are calling Dead by Daylight, like the original Identity V and Identity V is knocking them off and whatever, are also the people trying to bring Dead by Daylight metas and culture into Identity V, which I don't understand, and I think I've already talked about this, but it doesn't compute to me.
Really trash game, delete it right now is to trash!
And then gotta love reviews like this, just so insightful, really outlining what the problems with the game are and how they can be improved, or a general bad experience, or a scam even. It's really helpful when you see reviews like this. They really clear the murky waters. I love this game and all, but Wu Chang is too OP. His hitbox is too good and keeps hitting us survivors when he's too far away. His skills are also not far, and it's just so rigged. Please nerf him and bring his hitbox lower, and he needs a bigger cooldown. Gamekeeper 2, with many exclamation marks, but I don't think my voice can reach that high of an octave. I mean, first and foremost, Wu Chang is not very good. He's annoying, that's true, his hitbox is annoying, but I kinda like the fact that all the hunters have kind of a different hitbox. You know, it keeps things fresh, and it gives the hunters kind of an extra little add-on to their identity, and I think that's interesting. But Wu Chang is, in general, is just not that great, and you don't really see him too much, because he isn't that great. He's kinda like a B tier, maybe A-, something like that. This just kinda seems like randoms feeding, giving Wu Chang really fast presence, which sucks. Also, Gamekeeper Hook, not that great either, or just Gamekeeper in general. But I mean, like, hunters and survivors, they're both gonna have overpowered characters in their faction at some point. I mean, it's bound to happen. You can't have a game like Identity V completely balanced. And even if you could achieve that, that wouldn't really exactly be fun, because then you're just gonna have ties basically every single match. Like, no one's getting anywhere, especially in ranked. Like, it's not gonna be that interesting. Like, just think about it. It's so hard to balance an asymmetrical game like that. Impossible, I would say. And, you know, you're bound to have really good characters, but there are constant balance changes, so I really don't understand this one.